One of the reasons I hear people say, "Oh, I can't do meal prep," is because they think you have to have a gourmet kitchen and a million different tools to take care of all of the things that you're going to try to make over the course of your lifetime from the beginning. And nothing could be further from the truth. As a matter of fact, the rule of thumb that I want you guys to use if you're getting started with meal prep is this: start with what you have. There's a lot of different things you could do with meal prep. But if you're just making basic meals for yourself or yourself and your family, then it doesn't require Julia Child's kind of kitchen with every gadget known to man. You can start very, very simply. Now, we'll go over some of the things that I would suggest as a starting point, but I'm guessing that just about everybody that's watching this right now has these things in their kitchen. Now, the quality of those things, yeah, we can always improve, but it's not necessary to get started. We can get started with just some simple basics. What are a couple of them? Well, number one, you've got to have a cutting board and a knife. Well, Crocodile Dundee might think that's the right knife, but for you getting started, this probably isn't the right knife. Maybe one like this. Just a standard steak knife is going to be able to do most of the things you need to do for your meal prep. You can cut onions. You can cut vegetables of all kinds. You can cut your meat. You can clean peppers, right? And you can use it as a paring knife. You can do a lot of things with just this simple knife. Now, sure, we all want a complete knife set, but if you don't have it to start, or if they're not the greatest quality, it doesn't matter. If it'll cut a tomato, it'll cut just about anything. See, once you have this, then you can start building up to having a more complete set like this. So now we've got our steak knife. Well, you probably have a set of them, right? You have typically two paring knives, one that's straight and one that's curved. I like to use this one when I'm taking the stem of the pepper off, right? But for most things, when I'm using a paring knife, I like the straight one. But your mileage may vary. Now, the Crocodile Dundee knife for cutting vegetables, this is a really good knife. And this is the one good knife that I own, okay? This is actually a Cutco brand knife. It's what I want to have a complete set one day, but this is the only one I have left, okay? But when it comes to cutting vegetables, it's easier to cut vegetables with this than just about any other knife because it's made for the job. And then you have all the other knives, bread knives and fillet knives, and just there's a myriad of different kinds of knives that you can have, but you don't have to have all of them to begin with. If you've got this, or maybe this, then you're great. And then you can add piece at a time, or you can get a block set, like I stole these from back at the side of the kitchen. So this is really important. You do need a cutting board, and this is a small cutting board. I have a bigger one, but it's white. It blends into the counter. So for the video, I thought I'd use this. But it's not really the cutting board that I aspire to. Just like all my knives are not the quality that I want. I really want a wooden cutting board as opposed to the plastic ones because, well, microplastics, anyone? But this is where I'm at, and I can't get everything I want right now. So let's set this aside. What else do you need? Well, here's a couple basics that really come in handy. You got to have at least a pot and a frying pan. Now, if you don't have a good frying pan and you're going to be meal prepping your breakfast, then I would suggest making sure your first one is a bigger frying pan. Right? There are smaller ones. I have several frying pans, and they're different sizes. If I'm just going to make some scrambled eggs or fry some extra caffeine myself, I'll use this. But I very seldom do that anymore. I'm typically making egg scrambles where I'm putting onion, pepper, maybe mushrooms, ground beef, any number of different things, and then putting in the eggs, scrambling it all up, and then I'm making enough that I can have breakfast for the week as opposed to the day. So depending on what you're doing, again, will determine which frying pan is best for you. Now, if you're going out to get your first pot, then I would suggest getting a bigger pot rather than the smaller one, because I can cook small amounts of this, but I can't cook large amounts in a small pan, right? And when you're doing meal prep, you're typically doing larger batches of things. So get yourself a good pot, get yourself a good frying pan, and this will form the basics, along with your knife and your cutting board, of course, for what you need to use your stove and your oven. Well, you'll need some other pans for your oven, but There's so many of them. You get some trays, that kind of thing. But if you're using just your oven and your stovetop, these will be the basic tools that are going to help a lot. Now, what are some accessories you might want to have on hand? If I was stuck on a deserted island and I could only have a few tools, these are the ones I'd want. A can opener, obviously. Now, this is a Pampered Chef can opener. It's a higher quality. It opens along the top as opposed to the sideways grip that that grandma's was. Now, here's the thing. If you have grandma's can opener, it still works. Use it. I just happen to like this. So this is one of the things I upgraded. You need a vegetable peeler. Again, this was a little fancier one than grandma's, but that was an upgrade I made, but both of them work. I could not do it without a set of measuring spoons. Now, these fancy things actually are magnetic, and it's easier for me to keep them together when I don't make a mess like I did just there. And then I know that I've got a complete set from an eighth of a teaspoon to a tablespoon, right? And so this is going to be really important because you want to spice things, but you don't want to overspice or really underspice things. That should be a set of measuring cups. And going back to your measuring spoons, if all you have is one like this, right? This is an all-in-one. So you've got a quarter teaspoon, a half teaspoon, a tablespoon, and a teaspoon. If that's what you've got, use it. If you've got the old plastic ones, use those. You've got a fancy magnet one, then use those. But have yourself a set of measuring things. Next, you could get a small set of bowls. Now, this one actually came with two more. I've lost them. They have plastic lids, but you can use these to mix different things and in the store because they come with plastic lids. So you need some sort of bowl for putting things together. Now, I happen to use this one a great deal. If it got lost, I'd be in trouble because I use this to make my salads. I will eat a salad that big. But lately, Kathy's been stealing part of it, so I may need to get a bigger one. But measuring bowls, and if you're going to do much with pasta or beans or rice, then you're going to need a colander, okay? But if I have just these things, along with my frying pan and my pot, I can meal prep almost anything that's out there, okay? We haven't talked about fancy gadgets and things that you can spend a lot of money on. When I put a cake time for that, you can get things like this. This is a luxury item. Now, I love it, but it's a luxury item. This is to stab your onion and hold it down there, and you can cut your onion in nice, uniform slices, okay? You could also use it for other vegetables, but I use it almost exclusively for onions. You may want some tongs. Do you have to have them? No, you can use 2 forks. It'll work just well. You need something to clean your vegetables with. There's a lot of different things, right? So you could continually upgrade. I'm seeing a lot of people making hamburger on different social media channels, and they're using this star-shaped thing that they're breaking up the ground beef with. Do you really need more than just a spatula? No, but I can tell you I'm going to get one eventually when it makes sense. All right. Now, what are some other things that you can upgrade to? Because this is the basics are great, but when it's getting time to upgrade, what are some things you want to think about, and when and why might you make those decisions? Well, let me clean up this mess magically by the power of video, and I'll be right with you. Oh, one more thing. You'll need some spoons, some spatulas. I prefer the wooden ones or metal ones, but it depends on the pans you're using. If your pans are no-stick pans or Teflon, then you've got to use the plastics. But I'm going to really be working my way towards just using metal or wood because remember the microplastics we started talking about? Yeah, these things aren't necessarily the best, and neither are the Teflon. So, but that's another talk down the road, maybe for another video coming to you soon. All right, back to clearing up the mess. Look, all clean. All right, if you've got a stove and an oven, you can meal prep. If you have a stove and an oven and a microwave, now you're really cooking with gas because you can not only cook, you can warm things up really quickly. But what if you don't have that? Well, I have one person who's in our meal prep community who doesn't have a stove or an oven, doesn't have a microwave, and all they have is an Instapot, which is my favorite device to cook with. There are a lot of reasons. It's very easy. It's fast. Um, you can cook everything in one pot most of the time, and it does a myriad of different things from slow cooking to high pressure cooking to sauteing. It just is completely one of the most versatile tools that are out there, but it costs 100 to 150 bucks depending on the size you get and the brand that you get. But my friend only has this and an air fryer. And she's been able to cook everything we've done over the last several months in her kitchen right along with us using these two things. Now, did we have to change the recipe around a bit and how we do things? Absolutely. She's had to be very inventive and creative at times, but you can make it work with just this. I don't even know how much the air fryer costs because this is Kathy's, but they're bound to be 100 to a couple $100, I'm guessing, depending on the one you get and everything. But you could do a lot of things with these two, or if you just have one or the other. Okay. So again, you don't have to have these to do meal prep. These are additional things that may make it so that, like me, I don't use my stove and my oven hardly at all unless I'm making those breakfasts. What's another thing that I added on that you don't need, but you might find useful? Here it is, my rice cooker. Now, can I cook rice on the stove? You betcha I can. I got to really watch it, and I'm not really good at paying attention sometimes to things like that and knowing exactly when to turn it off. Can I do it in my Instant Pot? Absolutely I can, and it works pretty well. Sometimes I get a burn notice, sometimes a little underdone, sometimes a little overdone, but with this bad boy, my rice comes out perfect every time. And all I have to do is put water or broth, which is what I prefer. I put my rice and some butter, and then I flip this switch down. It does its magic, and when it's done, it flips up, the warmer comes on, and then I go and unplug it because it's ready to go. So this is just the easiest thing ever. And since I use a lot of rice in my meal prep, this is a godsend. The other thing is I can have this working with my rice while I'm doing other things over here, and I don't have to worry about making sure that everything's coming out at the same time because it keeps it nice and warm for me and ready to go. But again, what do you need to start with to do meal prep? None of these, or just these and none of those, right? So whatever you have, you can do meal prep and you can start making delicious, healthy, easy, fast meals that save you a lot of time and money with wherever you're at. Now, let me clear this out. There's one more thing we really have to talk about if we're talking about meal prep, and that is storage containers. So when I got started, all I had was this little plastic Rubbermaid containers. You can freeze in them. Things get freeze and burn pretty fast, but it'll last for 2 to 3 months. Usually when you put it in the microwave, that freeze and burn goes away and it does not affect the taste. So it's not really a big deal, but it's not as airtight and it's plastics. So you really shouldn't be microwaving and warming it up. Of course I did. So I'm really getting away from these and I'm going entirely over to these. That's right. My beautiful 35 ounce. Well, I have a couple other sizes, but the majority of what I use are these 35 ounce glass containers. They have a nice seal. They stack amazingly, so I can stack them in the freezer. You can use them without the lid in the oven. You can use them without the lid in the dishwasher or the microwave. You can use them with the lid in the fridge or the freezer. You can just warm it right up here if you need out of the container. Or for Kathy and I, we split it, and this will typically make 2 meals, whatever happens to be in it. They are just much safer containers when it comes to the microplastics that we talked about. What's another benefit of these over the others is that when I open my fridge, I can see what's in them. I'll show you. Let me ask you, can you tell which one has radishes and which one has green onions? Yes, you can see how much you have. So when it's time to go to the grocery store, you can look and say, oh, nope, I'm good on these, but I'm almost out of cabbage or whatever it is that you're using, right? So these are great. Again, like I said, they stack and they're my favorite containers. I started off with 15 of them and now I think I have 30 or 35 of them. And I'm probably going to need more because now my daughter's getting food and taking it to her house and my mother-in-law, these things are disappearing like crazy. They're like library books. So again, let's get back to it. As you begin, whatever you have, Listen, I grew up using Tupperware and Cool Whip containers to store food in. That's what we used at home. Uh, Shed butter and anything that came in a plastic container we reused. We called it all Tupperware, but none of it was. And that's what we stored our food in. So wherever you're at, whether you're back in my youth or you graduated to the plastic, eventually you may want to get here. But it's just like your utensils and the gadgets and the different things you cook with. It's all about building as you go for the needs that you have. If you're not doing baking, then you don't need baking pans and pie crust makers, and you don't need all the things that go along with baking, right? You don't need a bundt cake pan. You don't need pans for making bread. If you're doing basic meal prep, you need some good quality dishes, some knives, and some of the things that we've talked about. And then storage containers. So start where you're at, work your way up to what you want, and it all works out. So as we talked about at the beginning, sometimes I hear people saying they can't meal prep because they don't have a fantastic kitchen. Well, the truth is you don't need a fantastic kitchen. You need to want to do food prep and have better meals for yourself and your family, and start where you're at and build to where you want to be over time. So it's not a major expense. And then you're also making sure you use it. You're buying the things you're really going to use. If you get started and you go out and you buy a fancy set of, you buy all the things that I have here with the air fryer and the Instapot and the rice cooker, and then you find out that you don't ever use them, well, that's not a good use of your money. But if you find yourself cooking specific meals where one of those tools would really make your life easier, that's when you spend the money on it, because we're all about saving money here, not just on our food, but on the things we use to cook it. So there's no need to think about it. Now you know, whatever your kitchen looks like, you too can be meal prepping starting today.